Hey there, and welcome to an ESO build guide. I'm Dying Legacy, and this is the Winterborn, a Magicka Warden for solo content. This is an updated build from my previous Winterborn build for the Lost Depths update. The Warden is a balanced build when it comes to soloing content, from DPS to healing to toughness, and the Winterborn taps into all of that, making veteran arenas and dungeons a complete breeze. This is a quick build guide. We'll be going over the race, attributes, Mundus stones, food, potions, gear skills, passives and champion point slotables. The info will be minimal, so I'll only be going over what's necessary. However, do feel free to comment below if you have any questions or ideas, or if there's anything I could do better. And while you're down there, why not subscribe? With the intro covered, let's go over the Winterborn build. Starting with the race, it doesn't really matter what you use, it's your playstyle and your preference. Make the adventure what you want it to be and play how you want. But if you're looking for suggestions, I would recommend either the Breton if you're looking for more sustain, the Khajiit for extra critical damage, or a High Elf for extra spell damage. For the attributes, we're putting 64 points into Magicka, and for our Mundus stone, when we're doing solo content, we're taking the Lover's Mundus stone for extra spell and physical penetration. When doing content as part of a group, we'll be taking the Thief's Mundus stone for extra critical rating. For our food, we are taking Clockwork Citrus Fillet to increase our health recovery, max Magicka and Magicka recovery. You can pick these up at a guild vendor or make it yourself at a cooking station if you have the recipe. This can be rather expensive to get your hands on, however, in which case the cheaper option is the Witch Mother's Potent Brew. The stats are slightly lower and it doesn't give health recovery, but it's a very small difference and it doesn't matter which one you use in the end. For our potions, we're using Essence of Spell Power, which grants us Major Sorcery, Major Prophecy, Major Intellect, and restores some Magicka immediately. We'll be using these for those longer and tougher fights. We can grab these at a guild vendor or make them at an alchemy station. If you haven't got any on you at the time, you can always pop an Essence of Magicka instead. They will give us Major Intellect and restore some Magicka immediately as well. They might not be as useful as Spell Power potions, but they are better than nothing, and they do drop from almost every mob, so your bag will probably be full of them. Moving on to the gear now, we have the option to use a Maelstrom Ice Staff and a Pale Order Ring on this build. They aren't necessary by any means, and we have options in their stead, which we'll go over first. We are using 7 light armor pieces on this build, all with the Divine's trait and a Magicka enchant. For the jewellery, we're using the Bloodthirsty trait and a Spell Damage enchant. For our weapons, we're using an Ice Staff on our front bar with the Charged trait and a Frost enchant. For our back bar, we're taking another Ice Staff with the Infused trait and a Weapon Damage enchant. Moving on to the sets themselves, however, starting with the body pieces, which are the chest, waist, hands, legs and feet. Our first choice is a trial set, and it's the Whirl of Depths set. This set is gotten from Dreadsail Reef, and on veteran difficulty you can get a perfected version, which adds extra critical chance to the set. It's a minor increase compared to the unperfected version, so it doesn't matter what version you use. The set itself gives us weapon and spell damage, minor slayer at all times, and our light attacks add a damage over time effect to our target that deals frost damage over 8 seconds. When the effects end, a whirlpool is created under the target, doing frost damage for a further 6 seconds. If you haven't stepped into a trial, however, or want to use something else, you can use the Frostbite set, which is gotten from overland content in Blackwood, from world bosses, delves, public dungeons, or chests. You can also buy it from a guild vendor. This set adds weapon and spell damage, critical chance, and also increases the damage we do with frost abilities, as well as increasing damage done against enemies afflicted with chill, and also inflicts extra damage against enemies afflicted with minor brittle. If you're looking for extra healing, you could also use Winter's Respite, which is gotten from Western Skyrim overland content as well. Winter's Respite adds extra Magicka and Magicka recovery, and when casting abilities that leave an effect on the ground, will create a circle of healing frost for 10 seconds, that heals every 2 seconds while standing inside that circle. For our weapons and jewellery, we're going with the Icy Conjurer set, which adds max Magicka, weapon and spell damage, as well as extra offensive penetration. Applying a minor debuff to your enemy's summons a non-reflectable ice rate that will charge an enemy and deal frost damage over 10 seconds. For our monster sets, for our helm and shoulder slots, we can use the Ice Heart set. The helm can be gotten from Direfrost Keep on veteran, and the shoulders from the Undaunted vendors. This set adds critical chance, and when we deal critical damage, we have a chance to gain a damage shield that also deals frost damage to nearby enemies. Another good choice is the Slime Cross set from Wayrest Sewers 1. Again, the helm from veteran difficulty and the shoulders from an Undaunted vendor. Slime Claw adds critical chance and gives us minor berserk at all times. Now for the Ring of the Pale Order, which is gotten from the Antiquity system. When using this, we will heal for 20% of all the damage we do. We can't be healed by anyone but ourselves, and the healing we do does decrease when we're in groups. The ring will take up a ring slot, obviously, so we'll need to wear our jewellery set on either our shoulder or our helm. The slot doesn't matter. We will lose our 2-set bonus from our monster set, but the Pale Order ring makes up for it. You can stick with Slimecraw for the 1-piece bonus, Or you could also use the Magma Incarnate set. The head is found in the Dread Cellar DLC dungeon on Veteran, and the shoulder from the Undaunted vendor. Magma Incarnate's first set bonus will give us Magicka and Stamina recovery. The 2-piece bonus doesn't matter because we won't be using it. Lastly is the Maelstrom Ice Staff, which is gotten from Maelstrom Arena, and we'll be using this on our back bar. There's a perfected version from Veteran difficulty which adds extra offensive penetration. It doesn't matter which version we use, as we're only interested in the base effect, which is when enemies stand in our wall of elements, they take extra damage from our light and heavy attacks. That covers the gear, and now it's time for the skills, starting with the front bar. First skill up is Fetcher Infection, morphed from Swarm and found in the Animal Companion skill line. A swarm of Fetcher Flies will attack the enemy, dealing magic damage over 20 seconds, and every second cast will deal 60% increased damage, and it will also afflict the enemy with minor vulnerability. Next up is Frost Reach, morphed from Destructive Touch and found in the Destruction Staff skill line. This will deal frost damage on cast and an additional amount of frost damage over 20 seconds. The initial hit also afflicts the enemy with the Chilled status effect. Next is Barb Trap, which is morphed from Trap Beast and found in the Fighter's Guild skill line. This will set a trap at a target location that, when triggered, deals bleed damage and additional bleed damage over 20 seconds, and will also grant us minor force. Enemies who activate the trap will be immobilized for 2 seconds. We are also using Deep Fissure, morphed from Scorch, which is found in the Animal Companion skill line. This will cause Shocks to attack after 3 seconds, dealing magic damage in front of us, and when the attack is done, the Shocks will bury again for 6 seconds, and attack again for even more magic damage in front of us. Enemies damaged this way are afflicted with major and minor breach. Next is Arctic Blast, morphed from Arctic Winds and found in the Winter's Embrace skill line. You'll envelop yourself in healing winds, instantly healing yourself. The winds will persist for 20 seconds, dealing frost damage to enemies nearby every 2 seconds, and also stunning them when you first activate it. And for the ultimate on the front bar, we're using Ice Comet, morphed from Meteor and found in the Mage's Guild skill line. This hits enemies in an area, dealing frost damage, knocking them down and reducing their movement speed. After the impact, enemies in the target area take frost damage for 13 seconds. That covers our front bar, so naturally next up is the back bar, starting with Unstable Wall of Frost, morphed from Wall of Elements and found in the Destruction Staff skill line. This will create a line of ice in front of you for 10 seconds, dealing frost damage to enemies standing in it, applying Unstable Shield to yourself and nearby allies, protecting against projectiles. Chilled enemies become immobilized for 4 seconds. When the effect ends, the barrier explodes, dealing frost damage and applying Unstable Shield again for 6 seconds. And if you happen to have the Maelstrom Staff, any enemy standing in this will also take extra damage from heavy and light attacks. We are using Winter's Revenge as well, morphed from Impaling Shards found in the Winter's Embrace skill line. This conjures ice shards at the target location for 12 seconds, dealing frost damage. This deals 30% more damage when using a Destruction Staff, and enemies hit have their movement speed reduced by 30% for 3 seconds. Scalding Ruin is next, morphed from Fire Rune and found in the Mage's Guild skill line. This inscribes a rune of fire that, when triggered, blasts enemies in the area with flame damage and deals extra flame damage over 26 seconds. Ice Fortress is up next, morphed from Frostcloak and found in the Winter's Embrace skill line. This gives us major resolve for 30 seconds and also gives us minor protection for 30 seconds. We are also using Blue Betty, morphed from Betty Netch and found in the Animal Companion skill line. This will restore Magicka to us over 25 seconds and also grants us major brutality and sorcery. Every 5 seconds the Netch will remove 1 negative effect from us. And finally, for the ultimate on our back bar, we are using Northern Storm, morphed from Sleet Storm and found in the Winter's Embrace skill line. This will deal frost damage every 1 second for 8 seconds to enemies around us, as well as reducing their movement speed and increasing our weapon and spell damage by 300 for 30 seconds, and also gives us and allies major protection. That covers the skills, so let's quickly go over the passives, starting with our class passives. First up is the Animal Companion skill line. We want to take everything in here, which includes Bond with Nature, Savage Beast, Flourish, and Advanced Species. In the Green Balance skill line, we only want to take Maturation. We're not using any skills from here to activate any of the other passives. And in the Winter Embrace skill line, we'll be taking Glacial Presence, Frozen Armor, Icy Aura, and Piercing Cold. We are using Destruction Staff, so we'll take everything in the Destruction Staff skill line. These are Trifocus, Penetrating Magic, Elemental Force, and Ancient Knowledge and Destruction Expert. We're also wearing full light armor, so we'll take everything in the light armor skill line too, which are Grace, Evocation, Spell Warding, Prodigy, and Concentration. Next up is the guild passives, starting with the Mage's Guild. From here, we will take Mage Adept, Everlasting Magic, Magicka Controller, and Might of the Guild. And next up is the Undaunted passives. In here we'll be taking Undaunted Command and Undaunted Metal. This next one is optional and can be found in the assault skill line, and it is continuous attack. We only need 1 point in this to gain Major Gallop. We get nothing extra for adding a second point unless we plan on doing Cyrodiil or PvP. Moving on to the racial passives, these are very specific to your race. You want to grab everything, however you also want to have a quick read over them so you understand them and know what they do, just so you understand the advantages and benefits to what your race provides. And lastly, one more optional passive which I would class as necessary, and it's medicinal use, which is found in the alchemy skill line. This causes our potions to last much longer and makes potions outlast their cooldown, so you can always have a potion active. And that covers everything to do with the passives, so now we're going to start with the champion point slotables, starting with the warfare tree. In here, you'll take wrathful strikes to increase weapon and spell damage, fighting finesse to increase critical damage and critical healing. We'll also take deadly aim to increase our damage done with single target attacks, and we'll also take thaumaturge to increase our damage done with damage over time effects. And in the fitness skill line, we want to take boundless vitality for extra health, fortified for extra armor. We also want rejuvenation to increase our overall sustain. We also want to take siphoning spells to increase our overall sustain further when we kill an enemy. And in the craft skill line, you can really take whatever you want in here, as everything is very dependent on what you want to do. However, for myself, I would suggest for solo play to take Treasure Hunter to increase the quality of items you find in treasure chests. There's also Rationeer to increase duration of food, Liquid Efficiency, just so whenever we use a potion or a poison, we have a slight chance not to consume it when we use it. And also there's Steed's Blessing, which will increase our out of combat movement speed, which is extremely handy for solo play regardless. However, that's everything for the champion point slotables, and it also covers everything for the Winterborn build. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful in some way or another, and if it did, why not like and subscribe? It lets me know you're interested, and plus I have MMO related guides and content up once a week, so you'll be first up to see it. If you've any thoughts, suggestions, or just want to have a chat, why don't you comment below and let's have a little banter, or a discussion of somewhat. I don't know, tell me your favourite colour, your favourite band, if you prefer Batman or Spider-Man. Go for it. I also stream on Twitch as well, over at twitch.tv/dyinglegacy. We play a lot of MMOs over there, where I mostly swear and get trolled for getting lost all the time. But anyhow, thanks again guys, you've been fantastic, I've been Dying Legacy, and until next time, take care and stay awesome.